6 chilling true nighttime encounters you won't believe. Nightfall. That point in the day when the sun dips below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows that seem to writhe and twist as darkness tightens its grip. It's a time when our primal instincts kick in, when we feel most vulnerable, most exposed to the unknown. What lurks in the shadows or hides in plain sight may be more terrifying than your imagination. These 6 encounters are chilling testaments to that truth. True stories from the darkness that will leave you questioning what you thought was safe. Are you ready to face the unknown? Then turn off the lights, turn up the volume, and prepare to be disturbed. Deep in the heart of State Name, nestled among towering pines lies Name Forest. Locals will tell you it's a place best avoided after dark. Our story centers around a group of friends, Mark, Jessica, Chris, and Emily, who decided to tempt fate with a camping trip. As night fell, they heard faint whispering like the rustling of leaves.
Stay with us forever.
The whispers grew louder, circling their campsite. Panic set in as they realized the voices were coming from multiple directions. They ran until they reached their car, the memory of those chilling whispers still haunting their dreams. This next story takes us to a desolate stretch of highway number in State Name. Late one moonless night, Frank was driving home from a business trip. His headlights illuminated a young woman by the side of the road, her thumb extended in a desperate plea for help.
Are you okay?
She explained her car had broken down and her phone was dead. Frank offered her a ride. She accepted, but when Frank turned to ask her name, the passenger seat was empty. The next day, Frank reported the incident to the police, who showed him a missing persons file. The young woman had died in a car accident on that very stretch of road 5 years earlier. Our next tale takes us to a quiet suburban home in Town Name, where Sarah was tormented by an unseen stalker. It started with a missed call from a blocked number. The calls persisted, each time the phone ringing with an insistent urgency.
I'm watching you.
Sarah finally answered one of the calls. Silence. Then a whisper. I'm watching you. The calls continued, escalating in frequency and intensity. Desperate, Sarah contacted the police. They traced the calls. The number was coming from inside her house. Chapter 4. The Shadow in the Basement. In the small town of Town Name, David experienced a terrifying encounter in his own home.
I often worked late into the night in my basement office.
One night he heard footsteps above. His family was asleep.
I dismissed it as my imagination.
The footsteps persisted. David investigated, but found nothing. Back in his basement, a cold hand closed around his shoulder. He spun around to see a grotesque shadow flicker and vanish. David never saw the shadow again, but the memory stayed with him. Chapter 5. The Midnight Train Passenger. In City Name, Anya had an encounter on a late-night commuter train.
I settled into a window seat, exhausted after a long shift.
Anya noticed a man at the far end, his face obscured by shadows.
Each time the train entered a tunnel, he seemed closer.
Panic welled up inside her. The train stopped and Anya fled. She turned back, but the man was gone. The seat where he had been sitting was damp. Anya never forgot that night. Chapter 6. The Haunting Hotel Room. In a quaint roadside inn in Town Name, a guest experienced unimaginable horror.
I checked into the inn late one evening.
He heard scratching inside the walls, like tiny claws.
I dismissed it as a mouse.
The scratching grew louder, accompanied by a low growl. The next morning, the inn owner revealed the room had been sealed for years after a guest vanished, leaving claw-like scratches on the walls. Michael checked out immediately, the memory forever etched in his mind. So there you have it. 6 chilling encounters that remind us that darkness holds more than just shadows. It holds secrets, mysteries, and sometimes terrors we can't even begin to explain. As you drift off to sleep tonight, remember these stories. Remember that the line between our world and the unknown can be thin, porous, easily breached. And if you hear a whisper in the dark, a knock on your window, or a scratching in your walls, don't ignore it. It just might be the darkness reaching out to claim you. Until next time, keep it creepy.